Welcome back to Thru the Ringer. We're here with Todd McShay. We're making sense of the 2025 NFL Draft. And again, if you're not following the newsletter, go get it right now, the McShay Report. You just put this out, the top 10 prospects that you're higher than consensus on. And I want to start with my guy, Omarion Hampton. You said he would be a top 3 pick in the 1990s. I am right there with you. I couldn't have said it better myself. What do you like about Hampton? And, what have you seen on the tape that really is tantalizing based on his skill set?
Yeah, there's not many guys that are, 220 plus that run as powerfully as he does, but are as light on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add the fact that he's kind of a badass in pass protection, and his production after the catch. I think he's number one in terms of running backs in missed forced tackles.
Right.
As a receiver. Okay. So it's like, what's he missing? And he didn't have a great offensive line at North Carolina. The production was outstanding. He was having to grind out yards. He's used to what it's going to look like in the NFL. And so it doesn't take a super scout to figure out that Ashton Ginty's an all-world player, right?
Right.
But that doesn't mean that a second great back can exist. And this is the most talented top to bottom running back class I've evaluated in 25 years of doing this. And it starts at the top with those two guys. And I think we're going to see a run probably mid-second through the late 4th round of more running backs in a span than we've ever seen in draft history, because this is such a talented group. So when you're watching the tape and you've got guys like Quinshon Judkins, who's awesome, Travion Henderson, who's explosive, Cam Scadaboo, whose tape was even better than what I saw just watching the Arizona State games, and we all know how amazing he was this year. RJ Harvey's this little jitterbug for UCF that's a team captain and catches the ball well and does all the list goes on and on and on. Caleb Johnson from Iowa, right? Yeah. But when the tape is different on two guys than everybody else, and all those guys are really good and going to be very productive in the league in different roles, it tells you something, and it really stands out. And I just think the tape's different with Hampton. Now where do these guys go, right? And the value of running back, and it's kind of circling back. Everything's cyclical in the NFL, and it's not circling back because teams want to run the ball 35, 40 times and like the 1990s, as I mentioned. I don't know if there's going to be some wild card. I've heard, people speculating Patriots or Jaguars. I think that legitimately the first shot is Las Vegas at number 6. But I look at Chicago, and they've put themselves in a position where they could make a similar move, right? So maybe the 2 backs come off the board at those spots. I don't know if Dallas is still in the market at 12. I think they need wide receiver and other positions. But you start to go down that list, and it'll just be interesting. Will a team move up to try to get one? Will a team take one, even though we're looking at it right now? I'm like, they don't have a running back need, but they're trying to do what Detroit didn't really have a big running back need either. But they're trying to be dynamic at that position. So it's going to be fascinating where those 2 guys come off the board. And then will there be a third one? And if there is a third back in the first round, I would say it's Travion from Ohio State.
And it does, this is coming off a season where Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley were so featured, so discussed, so dominant, that it is kind of one of those things where the human condition comes into play. And if you're a team and you see these 2 guys that are on their own tier as players, you're saying, hey, running back's important. Why don't we make this move now? You mentioned wide receiver for the Cowboys, and a name that you have is your number 1 guy, Matthew Golden from Texas. I'm a big fan as well. This guy's a burner. He's got a lot of talent. Why do you think he's the best receiver in the class?
It's not a great class of wide receivers. We've been so spoiled for like a decade now. You know, like when Justin Jefferson's going mid-first, and we've got it feels like a Jamar Chase, and then the 4 Alabama receivers, and it feels like 12 Ohio State receivers, right? We've been spoiled, and this just happens to be a down year. Matthew Golden is kind of a surprise. He only had 38 catches or something like that at Houston the last year he was there. He comes to Texas. He's the number 2. Well, Texas figured out we better stop featuring Isaiah Bond. And then he got nicked up, and that kind of helped with the decision. And when they started featuring Matthew Golden, the offense started to take off a little bit towards the end of the year, the passing game. And Golden, to me, is an underrated route runner with that 4.29 speed. He's explosive, but he knows how to tempo his routes, how to leverage defensive backs, get in and out of breaks in a flash, and he adjusts to the ball. A lot of these guys who run the 4.29 or the sub 4.3 at the combine, they come in and it's like that. Yeah, but it's kind of inconsistent catching the ball, kind of a track guy. He's not a track guy. He's a wide receiver, and he catches the ball really well. maybe he's not going to be your number one, your elite receiver, but he's going to be a damn good number two who can stretch the field vertically. And listen, Teteroa McMillan from Arizona has all the skill set you look for: tall, long, athletic, highlight catches. And I think there's a place for him in the league.
And I do feel like it almost like is a consensus because there's nobody else that really jumps off the page. Like you said, this class there's no wow factor here. So it's a lot of like what you like with the wide receiver.
Yeah. And it's hard, man. Like
right.
It's hard because you look at this class and you agree there's a bunch of good receivers, but I can get a good receiver in the second or third round. I can get a Jalen Knoll from Iowa State or his teammate Jaden Higgins. I can get some good guys. And I personally, I like Matthew Golden as much as probably anybody out there, but I still keep it in perspective of like, look at the great organizations, whether it's the Philadelphia Eagles, we've seen it with the Chiefs, the Bills. The focus when you get your quarterback is you better start getting guys on the other side, because the quarterback can make up for 10 guys on the offense and make them better. He can't elevate the defense. And as I talked to Howie Roseman at the Combine, we had him on, we need closers. If we believe in our quarterback, we're going to jump to leads, and we need guys who are going to close out the game. So you watch Howie every year. Like, yeah, they don't need a defensive tackle. They don't need an edge. And then they go draft another guy. And so I look at all these guys like Abdul Carter, you start out with, and Jalen Walker from Georgia, and his teammate Michael Williams. And then you start looking down the list, and you got this freakishly talented kid, Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, and James Pierce from Tennessee, and Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College. And I'm like, maybe I'll just go get my receiver in the second round. So I think we're going to see a run on these edge guys and defensive tackles. We'll see a couple quarterbacks, but I think it's going to be a lot of defensive prospects early, and the wide receivers will have to wait.
Yeah, and you guys are doing a great job doing deep dives on each position group. You had 35 defensive line prospects graded in the first 3 rounds. So like you're saying, I mean, that is
and I'm off if I'm off by 8.
Right.
If there's 8 fewer than that, it still would be the record for the most defensive linemen drafted in the first 3 rounds. So I'll be very surprised if we don't set that record for interior and edges in the first 3 rounds of a draft, because I mean, these guys truly, it's a different group.
I want you to plug the fact that you guys are going to be in Los Angeles for the NFL draft. We're 24 days away right now from the NFL draft?
I think we're down to 23 now.
23. Oh, wow.
I know. I'm getting nervous.
I appreciate it.
No, it's all right. I only know because I'm getting nervous about the workload left. Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's a good sign that you've got executives and producers around you, and you're allowed to ask this question, because I finally just spilled the milk yesterday, and I don't know, and I haven't been yelled at yet. So we're going to be in LA, and we're excited. And no one told me to announce it or not to announce it, so I just decided to. We're going to do a live show for the first round of the draft. We're going to come on an hour before, and we're going to live stream the whole time. Then we're going to have the second night, we're going to do the second round, and we'll have something that kind of lives overnight for that. Mm-hmm. Then the third round, I was trying to figure out, like, what can we do that'll be fun, be a little bit different. So I called my good friend Ryan Russillo. I've known for 25 or so years, Boston guy. And I was like, hey, bud. And I gave him the old town speech. Like, I'm going to ask, I'm going to tell you something we're going to do. And you can't ask me questions, and we're going to hurt somebody and all that. I just need you to say, like, whose car are we taking? And he's like, of course he went to the NBA schedule. I'm like, bud, you can miss an NBA. He's like, no,
you can miss
it's fine.
The Hornets Pacers. Yeah.
He's like, what time's the draft end? All right, the playoff games are an hour later. I was like, but he said yes. So we're going to invade his house with producers, camera people. We're coming in, lights everywhere. He's got this awesome little man cave that's kind of, he's not doing so bad for himself. Single man out in Manhattan Beach. And we're just going to take over his whole thing, watch the 7th round live stream there, and have a little bit of fun with him.
That's amazing. That's great news. I'm glad you decided to announce it. I'm sure there will be many more announcements ahead, but it's going to be great. So go join McShay and the whole gang there for that show. Todd, you're the best. We appreciate you coming on the show, and we'll have you back soon. Enjoy those last 23 days of hard work, and hopefully you get a nice break afterwards.
I will, Tate. I appreciate it. It's good talking to you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, there you you have it, another edition of Thru the Ringer. Thanks to Cousin Sal, as always, and thanks to Todd McShay for making his debut on Thru the Ringer. We appreciate him. Again, if you are someone that keeps up with the NFL draft, go follow everything that McShay is doing. He is doing the deepest of dives. He is swimming in the ocean in depths you've never seen before, on edge rushers that you've never heard of before. He is completely locked in. And again, we appreciate everybody tuning into the show, and we will see you next week.